Hello, everyone. This is Latao, your astrologist and your spiritual counselor. Thank you very much for joining this quick video. Recently, I've received a lot of questions from either potential clients or my existing clients, and they want me to talk a little bit about uh, things related, not really about reading, but it's more about how to find a good reader and what they need to know or what is important before and also during a reading session when you are actually experiencing it. And I thought, you know what, this is actually a quite important topic, and I do want to talk about this. And sometimes, when I'm personally engaged with a client, I was thinking, how can we actually let people know better about what they should expect and how they can actually take advantage of the session to make the best out of it because they are the one who is paying for the session, and they will have a lot of expectations when they come to the session. Now, sometimes they are realistic, sometimes they are not. And so, as a professional reader who have been in this industry for over 10 years, and also who have also properly published tarot and oracle cards, I want to give you guys a little bit of advice. If you are actually considering at some point you want to see a professional for a personal reading session, or if you have already seen a reader, but you haven't been feeling you are very connected, you haven't feeling it was really contributing to the best of your benefit, then this video probably is for you. The first thing that I want to talk about is why do we need a reader and when should we see a reader? Usually, when I'm seeing my clients, I realize that about 70 to 80% of my clients, they usually have something that they're anxious about. So this could be about like maybe some of them are going through a crisis a period of time. Maybe they have a very, very pressing question in mind that they need answers for. Now, sometimes this could be about, a job offer, right? I have three different offers and I need to get back to them by the end of this week. And I really don't know which one to choose. Sometimes this could be about a pressing relationship question. For example, this is about someone who has been declared that their partner wants to leave them or their partner is going to divorce them and they're in a panic mode and they don't know what to do. One of the things actually about this kind of a situation is that when a client is going through a sense of crisis, it's actually a little bit difficult for them to remain calm during the session because either they're very emotional or they're very agitated, not because of the reader, but because of the difficulties that they're going through in their life. Now, with this kind of situation, of course, if you need very urgent advice from a reader, absolutely. But what I would say is that when you're seeing a reader, it's important that you let the reader know that this is the reason why you are here. Because your purpose is to get those questions answered clearly and directly. You don't want the reader to beat around the bush, right? Telling you about a whole bunch of unrelated spiritual stuff where you are sitting there anxiously waiting for them to give you the answer that you're trying to get. And so when you arrive at this session, let the reader know, well, today I'm here because I have one or two urgent questions. Can we focus on them? And if we have time, maybe we can, do a little bit more general readings, but these are the things really I want to focus on. Now, being very clear with your reader about these kind of things will help your reader to know how to help you the best. All right, so this is the first thing. Now, the second situation is that the client doesn't have a pressing question, but they do feel a little bit confused or they feel a little bit kind of like, not really sure which direction to go in life. Now, more often than not, this is usually triggered by them being in a in a limbo situation in life. For example, they have been stuck in the same situation for a long time, but somehow they do feel that there should be more, or there's a lack of fulfillment in there. Or this could also be about maybe they have been going through a little bit depressive time. It doesn't mean that they have depression as a clinical, mental sickness, but it does mean that sometimes we all go through that kind of feeling depressed, right? Feeling things are, we're just down. And we need a little bit more dopamine, if you know what I mean. We need a little bit more good news. We need a little bit more things to look forward to. And we want to know what's coming up for us so that we know where to channel our energy. Now, for these kind of readings, I would also say that it's important that when you arrive at the session, let the reader know why you're confused, how long you've been feeling this way. The more you can be clear with your readers, the more the easier, let's put it this way, for a reader to really tap into the area that you feel stuck with. Either this could be about relationship, or this could be about career, or for some of you guys, this could even be about friendships. Maybe we all have a little bit struggle with, finding our community, right? What community we belong to and how we want to find a sense of belonging and things like that. Now, both these two earlier scenarios I'm talking about requires clear communication. And so one thing as a spiritual counselor, especially in my case, because I was trained properly as a counselor, clear communication is very important. So try to avoid the situation where you say, I don't know what I want to ask. You do your magic. You help me, right? You see what you can see in the cards. I don't know what I want to know. I don't know what I'm looking for. When we are losing that sense of purpose, when we're disconnected with the goals that we want to have, actually, the more difficult for the reader to help you, because the reader could be looking at 1,000 different things on the card, but actually you only care about one or two of them. And so when the reader is talking about the other 98% of the things that are not really, healing you, or not really, it's not really your pain point, let's put it this way, then the reader will be wasting your time. But the problem is you're the one paying for the session. I think for a good reader and for the client, it's important that both of you are actually working towards the same goal. And so that you, at the end of the day, as a client, will have a very successful outcome through the session. Now, the next thing what I want to say is when you should see a reader. Usually, I would recommend that you see a reader for either spiritual counseling or therapy. I would say in my case, I don't know how about how other readers are working, but I do have a lot of good friends in the spiritual community, and usually what we commonly agree on is not more than not more than one session every 3 months. So, for example, the reason for me is because 3 months is basically when season changes. Okay, so for every year we have 4 seasons, and each season lasts for around 3 months, even though due to the environmental right crisis and the change, right? Sometimes certain season doesn't feel like certain season, right? But that doesn't matter. Energetically, there are 4 seasons for us, and our energy will be renewed. So I think it's kind of important for us to get a reading session done once every 3 months. You can do this once every 6 months if you feel like life is going quite pretty smoothly and you don't have much needs to ask questions or to find guidance. But also too often is also not good enough. For example, I've had client who wants to come to me every week to get a reading, and usually that will. I mean, you can do that when you have very urgent questions, right? That you're in a crisis mode, you need to see the reader right away. Of course, depending on whether the reader is available or not. But when you are doing the too frequently, then what you're doing is that you're receiving a lot of the information, but you don't have the time to apply the actual practical effort into changing or directing your life. And so what could actually happen is every week you're going to see your reader or therapist, and they will tell you the same thing. But you are not doing anything about it, or you don't have time to do anything about it. And so the next time when you come back, it's still the same thing. The reader will tell you the same thing again. And in that situation, it's not very beneficial to you because you haven't had time to digest, and you haven't had time to actually practically apply these theories and principles into your life. And personally, I think once every 3 months is the perfect time for you to get a reading. All right. So this is a advice as a professional reader, what I can recommend. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is what you should know when you are seeing a reader in the session. Now, I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier about, of course, clear communication, ask questions in a very clear and consistent way, and let them know how they can help you. And I also understand that sometimes in the reading session, when we talk about certain things, we can all get a little bit emotional. In counseling and psychology, we call this transference, meaning that sometimes, the things that a psychologist or a counselor is saying to you could trigger your emotion in you, and vice versa. Sometimes, because counselors, we are also human beings, we could also be triggered by our clients for the thing that they say to us. At the end of the day, we're all equal, right? You're a human, I'm a human. We all have personal emotions and feelings. Now, one of the things about during a session is, even though I think it's very important that we express our emotion, but try to express them in a consistent and logical way, and so that as the reader, we understand where your emotion comes from. What we want to avoid is that all we talk about is our feelings, but we're detached from logic and rationality. One of the key foundations of cognitive behavior therapy is that we have to really connect our rationality together with our emotion, right? Emotion triggers thought, and thought triggers action, and action again triggers back our emotion again. And so when we can really connect these things together, I think we can all have a successful session, right? And you can gain a lot of clarity there as well. And there are three most important things I do want to say as a client, what you should do when you're seeing a reader. First of all, just have a very open mind. What we want to know is that whether you're open-minded enough when you're coming to a session. Now, of course, open-mindedness requires actually the second thing that I'm going to talk about, which is about trust. You can imagine, yeah, if you come to a reading session, but you are feeling very defensive, and from the beginning of the session, if you're already feeling, I'm not gonna trust you. See, I already don't like you, right? I don't know you. Why would you, give me the best advice, right? I don't believe that you will have me in the best interest, things like that, right? If you are already defensive and you don't really trust the reader, then it's very, very difficult for us to do the teamwork, because one of the foundations of counseling is open-mindedness and mutual trust. And so as a reader, of course, we also have to trust our clients who come to us with a pure intention of either getting the answers they really want to get, or the healing that they need and the guidance, right? And we know that they're not coming here just to either mock us or just to play with us. And so the same way, we really want our clients to trust us as well. And so during the session, try to have an open mind to listen to different perspectives regarding your issue. Um, One of the things that I've experienced that is quite hard for me to conduct a session is that it seems like the client has already made up their mind. Okay, I'm giving an example. Let's say you are going through a relationship crisis, and you are asking me, what you should do about this. But perhaps in your mind, you have already decided that, well, no matter what happens, I'm not gonna break up. I'm gonna stay in that relationship, and even though I am unhappy and I'm suffering, but I'm not leaving this relationship whatsoever. See, if you have already made up your mind and you come to the session, then perhaps the reading or the message coming from your higher self is telling you to consider separation, or to consider at least giving yourself some space to invest in yourself instead of keep being tangled or involved in your current relationship. But the thing is that if you have already made up your mind not to leave your relationship, then everything your reader is telling you, you will see that as, but I don't want to hear that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hear that. I'm not leaving this relationship. That's not an option. Then it's very easy for the counseling session to be stuck in a place where the reader is trying to get the message through you, but you keep deflecting it back. And then there are only two possibilities. One possibility is that the reader would say, okay, since it sounds like you have already made up your mind, then there's nothing really I can do. So can you tell me again what your real question is? Because your question at the very beginning of the session was what you should do. And that's what I've been trying to do for you. But if you say that's not going to be an option, maybe you could have told me from the beginning. You should have said, I'm not going to break up. I've decided to be in this relationship, but I'm suffering. So what are the solutions for me? Right? So that's, again, coming back to the first thing I talked about regarding clear communication. And the second thing is that perhaps you also need to just give yourself a chance to explore why you are not giving yourself the other option, why you have already made up your mind about I'm only going to do this, I'm not going to do that, right? Sometimes it's very helpful for you when you can actually give yourself an opportunity to explore why the other path has been closed by yourself. And when the reader is talking to you through the cards and through astrology, and then you realize that, wow, actually, the door that has been closed by myself should not be closed. Oh, actually, the fear or the problem that I have had is actually not a problem. If as long as I can see this from a different perspective and I can deal with this from a different perspective. So this is about that kind of open-mindedness, the teamwork that you can do together with your reader. And the last thing that you can do to make a session very productive for you is you do need to take a little bit time to reflect on the things after the session. When the session finishes, the conversation is finished. But what you can do is that you can actually go home and reflect on the things that we've talked about. Now, usually for my sessions, I usually allow and I encourage my clients to voice record the session. So in case you don't remember everything that we talked about, you can also listen to the recording. And a lot of the things actually will make more sense to you because it's the second time you are listening to it. There could be certain information that you missed, right, during the session because you are focused on one thing or another. And when you listen to it again and again, 2 to 3 times, usually you will get the whole gist, right, of the session. You understand, oh, that's where we're trying to move towards. So that's an advice I also have for you guys if you decide to go to a spiritual counseling session. Now, the final thing that I want to address before we close this video is that then how and where are you going to find a good reader? Now, of course, there are many, many ways, just like how you find a good restaurant, how you find, I don't know, anything, right? Online. One of the things that I would always say is go on Google. Google the best reader. Either if you want to see them physically, you can Google the good readers in town, like in where you live. Or the other thing that you can actually do is most readers these days are doing online sessions. Like, for example, these days, 30% of my sessions are actually on Zoom. I've had clients, in the US, in Australia, everywhere, right? Even though there is a time gap, but usually we can make it work. And so what you need to do is go online and search the good readers. And, for example, you can find best I don't know, spiritual counselor in wherever you live, best tarot reader, in the city you live in, type the name of the city. What also you can do is that when you find their website and when you find their the information about them, go to the review and read, not just read about their own website, because of course everyone will write the best thing about their website, right? It's important to read their website when it comes to what kind of service they provide, so that this person does offer the service you're asking for. Instead of you booking the session, you realize that actually they do something different. And personally, I've had that experience once. A client booked a session with me, and when she came here, she said, I want you to remove a curse from me. And I said, oh, I'm not a medium. I don't do that. And so, but she was not really interested in spiritual counseling. She just wanted someone to do some magic, spread some salt on her head so that her curse will be removed, right? Which was believed by her. And now, then you probably will need to really look at the reader's website and see if they offer that kind of service, right? Now, of course, that's not going to be the major issue. The major issue is more about the reputation of the reader. Look at their Google review, look at their reputation. Another thing that you can actually do is to see whether this reader really knows what they're talking about, is that to see whether this reader had some proper publications out there. Because usually normal media companies, of course, you can find a lot of information on media, but media can be, they can be real, they can be fake. And now when I say they can be fake, I'm not saying they're lying, but a lot of the media company, they will offer media interviews, or they will offer press coverage because you're paying them. Right. So you pay them, I don't know, $20,000, and they will write a beautiful article about you online. And so I'm not saying you shouldn't trust them. These days, everyone does advertising, and that's a type of advertising, right? So that's fine. But the most important thing you have to see whether they have either been interviewed by some major media. And what I'm talking about is media such as like CNN, BBC, right? Those really big TV stations. Because when they go through the process of selecting who they interview, it's really a strict process, and not everyone can get to it. And the other thing actually about that is also whether they have proper published books or proper publish, oracle cards or tarot cards in the market. Because publishing can also be paid by yourself, which is called self-publishing. But proper publishing is a different. It's basically saying that those books and those literature were actually picked up by a proper publisher, and you can literally buy them from a bookstore. And so those things will tell you that these readers or these professionals, they know what they're talking about, and they have actually been recognized and approved by publishers in terms of their knowledge, in terms of the system they have developed, and also in terms of their clients' feedback, let's say. Because when a publisher it receives a manuscript from an author to be, they will also do their research about what kind of reputation this person has, right? Whether they if we work with this author, if we publish things for this author, whether they can actually sell and whether they can really produce some meaningful things for the market and for their global audience. And so that's another thing that you can look at. And of course, a lot of the clients I have these days are because of personal referrals. Like, for example, if you have a good friend you really trust, and they have always been seeing a reader and they loved it. And of course, that will give you some credibility about whether this person is legit, at least, right? Whether they are the right reader for you or not, that's a different issue, because at the end of the day, everyone has their personal preference. Your best friend's favorite reader might not be your favorite reader, because again, everyone is different, right? But at least you will know that this person is legit. It's not a scam. It's not something weird, right? It's totally safe and secure. And at least when you go to the session just to try your first time, it's easier for you to have an open mind and have a better trustworthy therapeutic relationship with them. All right. So today I just want to talk a little bit about these kind of simple things when it comes to looking for a reader, what you should know before you see a reader, what you should do, during a reading session in order for you to have a very productive and successful spiritual counseling session for you. All right. Thank you so much, my lovely souls and my lovely audience, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next reading. See ya.